So they're tactilely more sensitive. That is their filter. Or some children, they have some kind of special need. It is also a filter. So all of that forms a concept of house related to this human being's life. So it's all very immediate information. And it forms, the relationship of like feeling love. And like, my life when I was younger, I felt security. I felt safe all the time. I felt I would never be hungry because the world is always going to satisfy me. It's almost like food will just drop from the sky. I don't have to be like Oliver singing food, food, right? So all of that forms your concept. And on top of it, because of your experience of living in houses, and you have kind of an image of a house. If you live in the countryside, you will see barns, you will see farmhouses, you might see a big house. If you live in the suburbs, you might see, big house and small house and townhouses. And inside of the city, like where I live in a condo. Okay. And so that image, it becomes more a generalized idea. And then when we say house, the word, or when we hear the word house, we feel differently. So a word that comes to our consciousness is actually very, very dense for a child, okay? And on the left side, you see there's a hearing process. When you hear the words, you analyze it. It's actually part of our Wernicke's area, okay? And then it goes to the Broca's area and it processes the sequence of the sounds to make meaning of it. But in order for a person to be able to synthesize it and speak a word, it's actually a very long process. It's much more difficult. So young children, they might hear it, but they probably will not be able to speak it. But children ages 3 to 6, you just have to know, it's like building a very big pyramid with them. So they build a small pyramid and then there's a whole bunch of pyramids piled up to build their vocabulary. So it's definitely a lot of work. And that's what we're doing every day. And so with the vocabulary enrichment, the first thing is orientation game. I usually use the orientation game in the beginning of the semester a lot. Or when my classroom, the children are not very stable and they're not really doing a lot of work, I would do orientation game. I might collect 3 or 4 children, sit together, and I initiate it. By demonstrating. I tell the children, now I'm going to walk to the lamp. And I have several lamps, and I might say, I'm going to walk to the 3-head lamp. You need to name your lamps. I'm going to walk to the 3-head lamp. And I walk over and I walk back. And then I say to the children, now I'm going to play an orientation game with you. You know what is orientation? Orientation means a direction. You see, I just walk to the lamp. That's an orientation. So when I tell you, you can go and then come back. So with the young children, it's always very simple. And I usually start with our classroom. I would say, walk to the sink, walk to the fountain, walk to the, bathroom and come back. Okay. And for older children, I can make it even more complex. I can say, go to the pink tower, count how many cubes there are, and come back to tell us. Okay, that's a sequence of commands, and it becomes more difficult. Okay. So I do that very often when my classroom is chaotic. I find those ones, those. You know how some children have the power of leading chaos. You have to find the leader and just kind of, round them up and just play a game with them so that the rest of them can settle. Then this one, you kind of, you might do another work with this child that is individual, or at least this person's energy is kind of shifting towards a more calming energy. Okay, so I use orientation games a lot, and naming objects in the environment is the same thing that I would have a tray collecting objects, and then I would, bring it back and do a 3-period lesson. Or you could just bring the child and go to the door and say, this is door frame, this is doorknob, and this is the door. And you can say to the child, touch the door frame, touch the doorknob, point at the door. Where is the doorknob? Feel the door frame. So it's just a very simple 3-year lesson. Just name all kinds of things. Could be furniture, could be objects, could be anything in our environment. Could be brought together in a tray, or you could physically bring the children there. Okay. And collecting classified objects is the same thing, like I kind of hinted yesterday, is that you share with children, what is a collection? You want to share with them the idea of classification. Okay. And you just kind of tell a little story, or the way I do it is, I might bring a picture album, or I might just say, hey, do you see that tray with all of the bells? You just bring it over and then you say, it's a collection of bells. They're all bells, but they all look different. And I like bells so much, so I collect them. This classification is called bells. And it's my collection. And then I just put it back, and then I say, now we're going to collect some classified objects in our environment. Then you just start naming things and they bring things back. And that is classified objects. And practical life objects, we talked about that a little bit, is bring the whole practical life over. And usually it's done when the children already have a lot of experience with the practical life material, the specific one that you're working with. And the child actually also, know most of the names, okay? And there might be some names the child doesn't know or doesn't remember. Then you just do a 3-period lesson with those words. And then you can, start having the child taking the objects out in sequence of use. And that's the most, that's the easiest part. And for older children, you can even ask them, what do you do with it? So that you can use the verbs with them. Okay. And eventually you can even have the child talk about the whole sequence from the beginning to end. So we revisit the practical life materials at different stage of the child's life in the casa, to help the child deepen their relationship with these objects. So they were just objects for them. They had a practical purpose, but slowly they become something that the children can use for communication and something that they can use for expression. Okay. And parts of an object this is one of my favorite things. You get to name whatever the children know already, and you use 3-period lesson to give them the parts. So like you have a vase, and at the vase you have opening, you have the body, and you have the bottom, right? And chair also has different parts of the names. Are you aware of there is a kind of dictionary, it's called picture dictionary? Okay. I personally have a collection of picture dictionary. I have at least 3 of them. I will post it in the files just to share with you what they are. And they're so useful. But yet, at the same time, I learned a lot of useless names, useless parts, the terms of the parts. People are not interested in them, but I'm fascinated by those words. That's when I want to be a stuck up, and I want to share with people like, yeah, you think your English is good, mine is better. You don't even know what that is. So I like to show off with that. It's kind of fun. But with children, we do want to get into those nitty-gritty greater details, because that, is really supporting them to get to know more about this world, right? And especially when they go to elementary, they get into the deeper part of the structure of language. That is very helpful, actually. Don't neglect that, because, it has a lot to do with the word roots. Later, you will find out. And also general, functional classification. And there is nomenclature cards in the training center, there's a lot of cards over there. They're for that purpose. And it's classical 3-period lessons. Okay. And related objects game, it's usually done with cards. Okay. So it's the cards, and it's a whole set of objects that are related. Like, I have a set of cards that's for tea ceremony. And there are different things that we use for tea. And I actually have a real tray with those things in one place. And so kind of, have the children know that, they belong to the same activity, or they belong to the same function. You need all of this to accomplish this work. And once they know they have that concept, we can mix 2 sets together, 3 sets together, and have them sort them. So it's great fun. Just knowing the words is not good enough for us. We also want the children to explore deeper into it, create an even bigger, classification. And description game and definition game, or definition game, is you just come up with a definition for a chair. I have 4 legs, and I have a seat. People like to sit on me. Who am I? Okay, that's a kind of a definition. And it could be very scientific as well. But I usually do definition game, the scientific definition game, with older children. With younger children, it's just everyday objects. Or, some kind of item. It could be fruit. And we are... the story biological classification, I am going to give you I'm going to give you the sample and you're all going to make it. You're going to print it out and you're going to make your own booklets so that you can tell the biological classification stories. And also the sorting game, they're the biological classification cards that you use them for sorting. Okay. It's very much like it's very much like the, which classification game? Oh, yeah, it's this one. Related objects games. You just sort them according to classifications. And life cycle is just, we have one sample for you, and that is a butterfly life cycle. So you're gonna make that set as well. And oral grammar game. This one is harder, so definitely read it very carefully and try to do this one. We'll circle back to this one because this one is a very important preparation. And word study as well, it's quite deep because it has to do with 5-year-old, 6-year-old work. But the sensorial attributes, it's a 3-period lesson, and you already have that in the sensorial area, but it shows up again here just to remind you it's part of the spoken language. Okay. And so that's all of the enrichment of vocabulary. And some of you, I know you already started making them. And I want to share with you, when you're making the videos, make sure you submit the one that you are the teacher. So it's not like, 3 of you get together, you only record one, and all 3 of you submit the same one. If there's 3 of you, you're actually recording 3 times. Each time each time is a different